These shots hide a terrible truth.
Leawood 911, what is your emergency?
I think my daughter's been murdered.
On June 18th, 2002, the peaceful suburb of Leawood, Kansas, was rocked by an unimaginable tragedy. Ali Kemp, 19 years old college student, was found unresponsive at the neighborhood swimming pool where she worked. Her father, Roger Kemp, made the heartbreaking discovery when he went to check on her after she didn't return home from her shift. What he found would not only devastate her family, but also leave an entire community reeling and desperate for answers.
Leawood 911, what is your emergency?
I think my daughter's been murdered.
Okay, why do you think that, sir?
Because she's not moving and she's laying in the pool house.
How old is she?
She's 19.
Okay, stay on the phone.
And
Don't.
she's got blood all over. She's
Okay. Stay on the phone. Do not hang up.
Leawood, known for its safety and a close-knit community, was the kind of place where families felt secure, with neighbors often leaving their garage doors open. It was not the kind of place you think of when you think of crime.
It was basically a bedroom community, and it was just people like us that were raising families, so we had little kids running all over the neighborhood.
Leawood, Kansas is definitely one of the more affluent suburbs. They leave their garage doors open when they leave to go shopping. Everybody felt safe.
Ali Kemp appeared to be living a charmed life. The 19-year-old grew up in a loving home with her parents and two brothers in Leawood, Kansas, a peaceful suburb just outside of Kansas City. Ali was involved in numerous school activities, excelling both academically and socially. Her father fondly remembered her as a well-loved, dedicated young woman, saying she was on the honor roll, active in 19 clubs. She knew she was loved. By all accounts, she was a remarkable young woman with a dream of one day working with needy children, but tragically, she never got the chance.
Ali, most beautiful, innocent, sweetest thing, did absolutely nothing to deserve this.
On an overcast day in June 2002, Ali's life was taken in a moment of shocking, senseless violence, a crime so brutal it left even seasoned police officers in the community in disbelief. Ali had been working at the pool alongside her brothers, a typical summer job for local teens. That day, her brother Tyler went to take over her duties but couldn't find her. Concerned, he called their parents, and Roger quickly headed to the pool.
I got home about 5:20. My son Tyler was on the phone with his mother and said they couldn't find Allie. He had gone down to the pool to relieve Allie of her duties. He was very, very concerned. Turned right around on my heels, walked out the door. I drove immediately down to the pool.
Roger searched desperately, calling Allie's name as he checked the pool and the grounds. Her purse and cell phone were on the counter, but she was nowhere to be found. He entered the pump room, scanning the dim space before finally lifting a tarp to discover Allie's lifeless body. She was face down, her body badly beaten and bruised. When he rolled her over, he saw the extent of the brutality, black and blue all over, and he knew it was worse than he had imagined. Roger pleaded for her to fight, urging her to stay with him, desperate for any sign of life, but there was no response.
She's not moving. She's not moving. Allie, honey. Allie, come back. Allie, come to it. Allie.
Does it appear that she's breathing?
I can't tell.
They held me on the phone and kept asking me what was wrong with her, and I kept wanting to talk to Allie and see if there was any consciousness there, come back, fight through it. If there was a presence there, then, I could reach her, and I kept telling her to fight, keep fighting, and come back. You hope.
When you listen to that tape, you can just picture Roger holding his daughter, begging her to stay with him. Heartbreaking.
Paramedics arrived minutes later, and the officers found Allie unconscious, with blunt force trauma to her head and a pool of blood around her. Her shirt was pulled up, her shorts and underwear missing, and she had ligature marks on her neck, broken fingers, and broken fingernails, clear signs of a brutal attack.
When I found her, and I rolled her over, I couldn't believe how brutal it was. She was very, very bad shape, and it was bad.
Ali was rushed to the hospital, where she was joined by her family and her boyfriend, Phil. Despite the doctor's efforts, the injuries she sustained were too severe and she passed away.
We went from the hospital to the funeral home, my wife and I, and they took Ali to the morgue. You're dealing with something you don't want to be dealing with, but I went to the morgue and I spent the night at the morgue with Ali, and I wasn't going to let her be alone.
This shocking event shook the tight-knit community to its core. What had started as a normal day ended in heartbreak, and the search for answers and justice was about to begin. The investigation into Ali Kemp's tragic death began immediately, as authorities combed the scene for evidence. The pump room where Ali was found was chaotic. Scattered equipment, blood splatter, and signs of a desperate struggle.
Her flip-flops, which she was wearing, were in different parts of the pump room. There was also blood spatter. It appeared that she had probably fought for her life.
Amid the disarray, investigators discovered a potential lead, an open first aid kit. Both the antibiotic tube and its cap, found nearby, yielded DNA evidence. Additional DNA samples were collected from Ali's clothing, offering hope for future breakthroughs. As forensic samples were sent to the Kansas State Lab for testing, news of Ali's death spread quickly throughout the community. The once quiet Leawood was in shock. At Foxborough Pool, where Ali had worked, friends and neighbors gathered to honor her memory. Flowers, photos, and heartfelt tributes began to pile up at the entrance. From the day in June when Ali Kemp was murdered, her story united an entire community in grief and determination.
Ali Kemp had her whole life ahead of her. She stood out at her Leawood High School, Blue Valley North. When we were out there covering the story, people just kept showing up.
Ali's death was not just a loss to her family, but a shattering blow to a community unaccustomed to such violence. As people mourned, one question haunted everyone. Who could have done this, and why?
A much-loved Kansas State student and Blue Valley North graduate.
And I hope they find him, the guy that did it, and I hope she didn't suffer long.
I have two kids, a little boy and a little girl, It makes, it's hard to explain, how a mother feels.
The Kansas City Metro Squad, an elite group of detectives, quickly took over the case. Witnesses near the scene reported seeing a tan and 1980s Ford pickup truck circling the parking lot 2 or 3 times on the day of the murder. The day before, a man had been spotted lurking near the pool bushes with a camera, seemingly watching sunbathing girls. Ali's father, Roger Kemp, became a relentless advocate for finding the killer.
Well, I was determined to finish the fight for Ali. I was going to get him.
As the investigation continued, police released a sketch of the man seen near the pool, along with details of the suspicious truck.
Detectives released this composite of a man seen the day before Ali was killed. He's tan and slender in his 30s or 40s.
The community sprang into action, distributing thousands of copies of the sketch. Among the volunteers was Ali's boyfriend, Phil, who had been dating her for 5 years. Phil revealed that Ali had felt uneasy at the pool when she was alone, particularly around the lawn care workers.
She just said that she was a little worried about people. Like when she was by herself, she just said she was worried about people being around there and watching her.
Despite his cooperation, police had to investigate him as a potential suspect.
In any type of case like this, you always have to eliminate family, close friends, boyfriends. That's got to be done right away.
He provided his DNA and explained his movements on the day of the murder, stating he had visited another pool and spent the afternoon playing video games with a friend. Her boyfriend, who was deeply shaken, was quickly cleared through DNA testing and confirmed to be working at another pool during the crime. DNA comparisons also ruled out her father and brother, eliminating them as suspects.
Phil was a great guy. Roger will tell you, when they asked, is there any chance Phil could be involved, he said no way. Phil was a sweet guy, a good kid. He was one of the ones leading that charge to put out those signs all over town. He loved Ali.
Forensic tests uncovered a partial male DNA profile mixed with Ali's DNA, but it wasn't sufficient for entry into the CODIS database. Investigators determined the murder occurred between 2:00 p.m. when Phil last saw Ali and 5:00 p.m. when her father found her. As the investigation unfolded, a chilling account from one of Ali's friends who visited the pool that day added a crucial piece to the puzzle.
No one was really at the pool that day, and she was by herself, and she'd called her best friend to come keep her company.
At 3:15, her friend shows up at the pool.
She had pulled down into the parking lot, didn't want to get out of her car, being a teenage girl. So she was just honking her horn to get Ali to come out from inside.
But Ali never came out. Instead, her friend noticed a man peering around the pump house, carrying a pail. He nodded and waved before disappearing. Assuming the man was Ali's boss and not wanting to get her in trouble for honking, the friend drove away. Investigators quickly honed in on this man, suspecting he could be the killer, as no one recognized him as an employee or regular visitor. Investigators believe Ali's friend saw her killer.
More than 20 Metro Squad detectives are on the case. They're not sure if the man in the bushes and the one seen at the pool the day of the murder are the same person.
Police now have two possible suspects. The composite sketches of this individual and another man seen lurking in the bushes the previous day were released, sparking a wave of tips from the public.
Tips Hotline has a $1,000 reward for information that leads to a conviction. But Roger Kemp felt like, we need more. We need to get these tips coming in. We need more. And so he just kept raising more and more money. And eventually he raised $50,000.
With over 500 leads flooding in, detectives worked tirelessly to identify and question potential suspects. One tip led them to James Strader, who resembled the sketch and had a criminal record. However, his alibi checked out. He had been working at a repair shop on the day of the murder, and his boss confirmed his presence throughout the day.
There was really not a time that Strader could have been absent long enough to get to Leawood, commit this crime, and get back without the boss have noticing.
We basically eliminated Strader based on the fact that he was working that day.
Strader was eliminated as a suspect, but he would resurface later under darker circumstances. The case gained national attention, with sketches broadcasted on platforms like America's Most Wanted. Investigators hoped someone, somewhere, might recognize the man responsible. But as time passed without solid leads, frustration grew. The break they needed wouldn't come until February 2003, when James Strader emerged as a suspect again, this time linked to a series of violent crimes across multiple states. Detectives realized they had never taken Strader's DNA during their initial investigation, a missed opportunity that would come back to haunt them. As the investigation into Ali Kemp's murder progressed, the hunt for James Strader intensified after his name emerged. Strader was wanted for multiple rapes and kidnappings in Missouri and Kansas, including victims as young as 14. His striking resemblance to the composite sketch, along with his criminal history, led investigators to believe they had found the killer.
He looked like the sketch. He had a pickup truck. He was wanted for other rapes. That's when we thought, well, that connection is clear. He's the guy. We got him.
James Strader was pulled over in Richfield last night. His arrest came after he allegedly skipped out on paying for gas at this station.
I can see the pump from here, and he was the only car out there, and he just took off.
However, despite being arrested for a gas station robbery in Utah, Strader's DNA did not match the crime scene evidence, leaving investigators disheartened.
And we got a call from our lab who was back online with DNA, and they said it doesn't match.
It looked like we had him, and he was not the person. It just breaks your heart. My heart was already broken. My worst fear was that it would turn into a cold case. It's just a place you don't want to be.
On June 18, 2003, the one-year anniversary of Ali's death, the case took a turn when her father Roger took an unconventional step. He put up a billboard with the composite sketch of the suspect, hoping it would jog someone's memory.
Yeah, I was driving down the highway, and I looked at a billboard, and I thought, well, why not put it on a billboard?
Around the time of the anniversary of her death, he came to us and said, I'm thinking of doing what I did in the USA Today ad, but putting it on a billboard. What do you guys think about that? And we all said, well, it certainly can't hurt.
The billboard generated numerous tips, one of which pointed to Ted Hoover, a pool service worker with a truck matching the description.
Ted Hoover works with a pool service company and looks like the composite. Has a pickup that matches. We did find a driver's license, but there wasn't any criminal background information on Mr. Hoover.
Detectives visited Hoover. When questioned, Hoover denied involvement but couldn't recall his exact whereabouts on the day of Ali's murder. When asked for a DNA sample, he refused, stating he wanted to consult a lawyer first. While refusals were not uncommon, it raised suspicions among investigators. Days later, Hoover's attorney informed Sergeant Hansen that Hoover had vanished, possibly heading to Florida or Las Vegas.
The attorney finally gets back to me and says, hey, he's taken off. I don't know what to tell you. He said he thought he went to Florida. And then in talking to the landlord said, well, I think he went to Vegas. So he kind of just disappeared.
By fall 2004, weeks after Hoover vanished, a hotline tip suggested he and his girlfriend had moved to Connecticut. Police managed to locate him under the name of Benjamin Appleby.
Appleby was arrested at this small home on a major thoroughfare in rural Litchfield County by Connecticut State Police on an outstanding warrant. He's wanted here for risk of injury to a minor, disorderly conduct, and public indecency. Appleby was taken for questioning to the state police barracks.
At first, Appleby resisted providing his DNA, but after being told it would be collected one way or another, he complied. The DNA would soon reveal whether he was the man responsible for Ali's tragic death. Before the Connecticut State Police could speak to Benjamin Appleby, the Leawood detectives set their plan in motion.
We kind of had a brainstorming session about, we're going to get one shot at interviewing this guy. What can we do to increase our chances of him maybe saying something here?
They set the stage with an aerial photo of the pool, Ali's obituary, and case files with Hoover's name on them to make him feel the pressure. In the tense interrogation that followed, Hoover began to break down.
Can you go ahead and tell us what you remember and what happened that day?
I went in there to the pool with the intentions of looking at the pool to get to business.
He admitted to making small talk with Ali, but it quickly escalated. He said that he had seen her from afar and thought she was cute and wanted to date her. Hoover then revealed the terrifying details of what happened next.
And I hit on her. Small talk. I don't remember exactly what I said. Wasn't interested in anything I had to say. And I was blocking the doorway.
He described how he brutally attacked her and eventually strangled her. During the interrogation, about 10 minutes in, Detective John Dickey directly confronted Hoover asking, "You killed her, didn't you?" To their surprise, Hoover admitted it, simply saying, "Yeah, I did."
You said she was strangled. I know I strangled her. I don't know what I strangled her with. And I don't know why I did it.
On December 5th, 2005, Appleby was convicted and handed a hard 50 sentence under Kansas law, 50 years in prison without the possibility of parole until 2054. After years of anguish, Ali's family finally saw justice served.
It was a big case. People were following it, and we were able to catch them. And that's what I wanted to do when I became a cop, is catch people like this.
When word finally got back to the newsroom, it was just a rush of relief, elation, because this has been going on for 2 years. 2 years of not knowing, of wondering when this was going to come to an end.
Just knew we had him off the street, and I didn't want someone else hurt. People talk about closure. I don't see closure. He's still breathing. Ali's not breathing. I've got a problem with that.
In memory of their daughter, Ali, Roger Kemp and his wife, Kathy, created a foundation aimed at teaching self-defense to young women.
I realized that the world had changed and that women needed to know how to defend themselves. We've had 68,000 people go through our classes now. I don't care how many people we teach, but if we teach 100,000 and we save one life, it's worth it. You cannot put a value on a life.
This certainly is not the way he wanted Ali to make a difference in the world, but he is very proud of her, and I hope she would like what they're doing. She'd wish the same thing. The foundation has become a way to protect other young women from suffering the same fate as Ali. Their mission is clear, to ensure that what happened to Ali does not happen to another girl. Despite the tragedy, Roger continues to honor his daughter's memory by providing women with the tools to protect themselves. In addition to their efforts, Roger's commitment to the cause was recognized nationally. He met with the president and was awarded for his work with the foundation, which further brought attention to the importance of self-defense training for young women across the country. It's a bittersweet achievement, but for Roger and Kathy, it's a testament to Ali's lasting impact on the world.
I wish I was there in a wonderful place where no one knows the word hurt. But most of all, I wish I was there in a wonderful place where everyone knows the word love.